going to be a complete spoiler-free review. No spoilers. Sorry, my window's open because it's kind of warm in here, so you might hear a couple cars come past, or some crickets and stuff. I tried to do the best I could to block it out, but this is my review of Daredevil Season 3. It is excellent. It is, it's as good as Season 1. It's on par, maybe even better. They took lessons, because Season 2, I thought Season 2 was on par with Season 1 in a different way. Season 2, to me, Daredevil Season 1 and 2 are the difference between Captain America Winter Soldier and Captain America Civil War. Captain America Winter Soldier, I ally with Daredevil Season 1, which is they are better directed. Like, it's more focused, it's a little bit more direct. But the action in Daredevil Season 2 and the action in Captain America Civil War and the effects and the action and all that and some of the great stuff was just built up to this awesome degree that made me just kind of virtually, it was more comic booky. And I think I love that about Daredevil Season 2 a little bit more. Like, I still think Season 1's better, but I loved it about it a little bit more. Like if you made me have to go back and watch a season between the two, I'd watch Season 2 because Season 2 was just so much fun. There was so much going on. And Season 1's just a through line. And Season 3 it leans a bit more on Season 1, but the action and some of the more comic book aspects are still there. It's not gonna be a long video because it's completely spoiler free, but I'm gonna get into it. Now this show takes place a few months after Defenders, and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Defenders, a building crashed down on Matt. Now they don't say how he survived it. All you know is you see him like beating the shit, his suit destroyed, and he's like laying out somewhere. It's like he was falling, and he was screwed up. And he gets found by his father. I can't remember his name. O'Reilly, Fowler, McDaniels. It's definitely an Irish last name. But he gets found by the priest he's been talking to. He's been talking to this guy throughout Season 1 and 2. Needless to say, priest brings him back to this place. You hear him call Mother Maggie, and I'm not gonna spoil that. But if you've read this is loosely based off of the Born Again comic book. I say loosely based because there are aspects of it that are obviously changed, but there are two aspects of it that are exactly the same. Now, I'm not gonna spoil them for you, but if you read the Born Again comic, which is a phenomenal comic, you should read it. It's great. It was I don't think it was Frank Miller. I don't think that was Frank Miller, but it's a fantastic comic. But anyways, getting into it, he's beating the shit, and these nuns and Father O'Reilly kind of fix him up. And Matt, being Matt, has got this whole self-doubt thing going. He's doubting if what he does change. Meanwhile, Wilson Fisk is pulling strings from inside prison. Now, this isn't a spoiler because this was in the trailer. If you saw the trailer, I'm only going to talk about things you see in the trailer. And he finds a way to manipulate his way out of prison by making a deal with the FBI. Now, it's revealed later on how much of a deal he was making with the FBI, but he finds a way to weasel himself out of prison by making deals and ratting out people and ratting out other gangs. And it's a pretty genius plan. Meanwhile, but not to get into anything, can Daredevil stop Wilson Fisk? Can he put him back in prison again? Can he stop him from whatever scheme he's scheming up? And that's pretty much the cliff notes that I could give you without spoiling anything, because the talk about this show is going to be massive spoilers all across the board. But let me get into the show. I'm going to start off with new characters, and then I'm going to go into characters who have been there before. I'm going to start with the biggest standout. The biggest standout of the new characters is Poindexter, a.k.a. Bullseye. They do a phenomenal job of setting him up. You don't even know he's Bullseye for you just got an inkling he's Bullseye. If you didn't watch this, you wouldn't know he's Bullseye. But when it happens, it happens. There are amazing action sequences with him. The actor who played him does a phenomenal job. And they play, in the comic books, Bullseye is more of a gleeful psychopath. He gets joy out of killing people. He gets joy out of hurting people. He gets joy out of out of just out of killing people in the most insane ways, like throwing a fucking paper airplane from one roof to the other roof and slicing a guy's throat, and then just being like, "Ha, see that?" Like in the comics, he was just more of a gleeful psychopath, a couple notches below like the kind of glee you would get from the Joker. He's a gleeful psychopath who just did shit out of boredom and stuff. But this version of him is more of a, you see how he got there. It's more of a, they kind of build him up like a serial killer. Like when you see his origin, because they always do that in these shows, you see it in the way his mind works. It's almost like a serial killer. Not quite, because they kind of give you this picture that if situations worked out differently in his life, he might have been a better person. He might have been a better man if things went differently. But those things didn't go differently, and he is who he is. And they kind of blow, and instead of him just being unusually accurate, which he is, they kind of hint to that when they show his origin, that he is unusually accurate. You know, for some reason, he's just really accurate. Like, minor spoiler, there's a scene where the first scene you see of his flashback of him as a child, he's throwing a baseball at the wall. You know, typical thing to do. Kid plays baseball back in the 80s, you know, angry, throwing a ball at the wall. Till you realize, it took me a second to realize that he's throwing this ball at the wall, and it's hitting the same spot. And by the way, he is not close to this wall. He's hitting the same spot over and over and over and over and over and over, making that hole deeper and deeper and deeper. He's hitting the same spot on that wall. Imagine him as a little kid just throwing something naturally. And then later on, some things happen. Once again, if you know Bullseye's origin, you know he's got a history with baseball and throwing them. So, but the way they show why he's so accurate is he's gone through a whole bunch of mental problems, and the thing that he figured to help him was stability and order, which is why he joined the military. Made sense. You know, a lot of military guys are clean, a lot of military guys are orderly, you know, and he's that to an extreme. He's kind of OCD in a way. And the way they kind of make his accuracy sound, it's not like he's just ridiculously accurate and he's just that accurate for no reason. It's like he's a perfectionist. Almost. Like, he's a perfectionist. And it's almost like if he doesn't do it perfectly, because in the comics they were all like, "Oh, you made me miss." Like, he was just snapping and it was just him being crazy because he missed and he doesn't like missing. But in this, it's more of a, he takes it personally. Like, the reason he's so accurate and the reason he's so ridiculous is because he made it his personal mission to be that good, because in his mind, being perfect is the only way he can be loved. And they do get a little deep down in that. He feels deep down that being perfect is the only way he can be loved. And Ben Poindexter, aka Bullseye, is phenomenal. He is definitely the star standout character. But there are other standout new characters, such as Federal Agent Nadeem. Now, Nadeem finally breaks the mold of the typical cop in the story. Punisher had a cop kind of like this. I can't remember her name, but like, she was fine. She didn't drag it down, but some shows do this, you know. Like, but Nadeem is a great character. He's a family man, down on his luck because he had to pay a bunch of bills off on his for I think his sister's healthcare. And you know, he's an FBI agent trying to get a big break, and then Wilson Fisk is dropped in his lap and starts to break this news, and he finally gets the break that he needs. And Nadeem, you can't fail your head to tails. Like, they play Nadeem up to a point where you feel like you've seen these beats before. I mean, he's a good cop, he's a good actor, but like I'd probably say through episode 1 and 7, you kind of know the beats that he's going through. They do this on all comic book superhero movies with the cop and whatnot, and Wilson Fisk manipulating him. But then there's a big thing that happens, I'm not going to spoil it here, that instantly makes him more of a rounded character, instantly gives him more chops to act. It was just amazing acting by him. The guy who plays Federal Agent Nadeem did a phenomenal job. I don't know if there is any of a new character, any more new characters. Any new characters that stick out is what I'm trying to think of. Well, Sister Maggie. Well, if you read Daredevil, then you know who Sister Maggie is, but she does a phenomenal job of being this hardcore nun. You get to get a bit bored. Sister Maggie, I can't really talk about Sister Maggie because her entire stuff, all the stuff on her is just a huge ass spoiler. But just know that she's complicated and she has a lot going on, and she's a living embodiment of the world is complicated. It's complicated, which is what's sad about some of these Netflix shows getting canceled, because I always love that the Netflix shows always kind of just say it's complicated, man, and she's a living embodiment of that. It is complicated. But talking about characters who came back, Foggy and Karen are both great in their respective roles. I heard a little bit of pullback on Karen. You do get the origin of Karen, and they do something different this year. Because in other seasons you hear, you hear about Karen's backstory. You hear they allude to Karen's backstory. You actually get to see it. I'm not gonna spoil it, but you get to see it. Foggy talks about his family all the time. You get to meet his family a bit later on in the show, and you get to see the kind of place he grew up in. You realize, yep, those are the kind of people you figure like a boy like him would grow up in. You get to see that meat deli he's been talking about so much since season 1, when his dad kept saying, apparently his dad told him a story about he could have had his own deli. But yeah, like you meet his family, like they really show you, like, which is making me scared that this is the last season, because they really show you the questions that you like. They answer all the questions, all the things that were set up. Everything is resolved. There is not a single question. There's not a single stone that isn't unturned. All of them are done. All the stones are turned. It's completely done. Like there isn't an actual good reason to come back for a season 4, which is scaring me. But anyways, they both were fantastic. Mahoney was fantastic. The cop who's been rising through the ranks, who showed up in Daredevil season 1 and 2, and the Punisher, he's back. He's doing great. He's great. The damn DA from Daredevil season 2, who was working with that other God damn it, who was working with that other DA when he was below her, with the one with the glasses. He's back, but now he's trying to take her spot. He's back. He does a good job. Wilson Fisk, Kingpin. I had to save the best. Well, best for last is I'm gonna get to Matt, but Wilson Fisk, Kingpin is phenomenal as always. He is great. He's phenomenal. He adjusted his voice a little bit. He's not as Vanessa as he was in the first season. He's more Vanessa. Like he kind of pulled it back a little bit. He's great. He scratches that emotional spectrum, and he does a great job of And this version of Wilson Fisk is a bit different. He has a little bit more control of his emotions. Now, these Wilson Fisk, they do break out, but he has a bit more control of his emotions than he ever used to have. He's pulling it back, and he finally goes by the codename of Kingpin. Like, it's a thing now. Like, Kingpin is a thing that is out there. He finally goes by that codename. And he's wearing the white suits. All he had was white suits. Like, which makes me think, man, like, he's really represents power to him. Like, yeah, Wilson Fisk, Vincent D'Onofrio, Kingpin, phenomenal. Best villain on Marvel TV. Best villain on Marvel TV, probably one of the best villains on TV. He's in my top 5. Like, it's like him, Zoom, Deathstroke. It's like him, Zoom, Deathstroke, Killgrave, Cottonmouth. Like, he's in there. He's at the top, though. He's near the top. Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is near the top. And then you got Vanessa. She shows up later on the show. I'm not going to tell you when. I'm not going to tell you how long. Well, I'll tell you how long. She's not there extremely long. But when she's there and she makes an impact. And they finally pay things from the comics forward. I've told you before, maybe in another review, that in the comics, Vanessa is pretty dangerous. Like, a lot of people say that, she's more scary than the Kingpin is, because she's a little bit more bloodthirsty. And you will see that. Like, Vanessa is scary. But, you know, that's not here nor there. Now, getting to Matt Murdock. Matt Murdock is a phenomenal character. Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock is great. He does a great job here. The action sequences are phenomenal. There is one action sequence in a prison. You kind of saw a little bit of it in the trailer. That you just saw a glimpse of it. That sequence is amazing, but there is a sequence after that that is phenomenal. The camera work on that was just outstanding. Like, it really was. And But yeah, the action sequences with him are phenomenal. You scratch the emotional spectrum with him. There are times where you outright fucking are pissed off at Matt. You're like, Matt, can you stop being a bitch? And then there are times where you're like, I understand why you're hurting Matt. He does a phenomenal job of scratching that whole spectrum. And then it all kind of wraps up in this beautiful bow of awesomeness. Daredevil Season 3, that is my review. I give Daredevil Season 3 a 10. I loved it. I couldn't find many complaints about it, and the complaints I had were like very minor and very far in between. I had two phenomenal villains, two complex phenomenal villains who you understand how they got there. Daredevil was great, Foggy was great, everyone is where they should be, and in the end, it's the exact ending you want.